We're making things happen.
All right. Now that you've just said, we're making things happen, that's going to wind up in the open air also. I see it already. All right, everyone. Hello. This is Ray Hernandez, joined by Johnny Ice. Johnny, what's going on, man?
We've made it to episode 2, and that people said we'd never last. So here we are.
And on a Friday night, no less, because everyone's schedules are just crazy. Well, actually, your schedule is crazy, not mine. I got plenty of time.
I like how you say Friday night and everybody's schedules are crazy. I'm like, Friday night is wide open these days. Wide open. That's prime territory. Friday night, you got it.
So it's awesome to be here for episode number 2. We actually have a name now, Behind the Bag, which right. I think is great. Like, do you want to tell viewers or listeners how we got there?
Well, we're shamelessly plugging the link to our podcast, right? We pass it around and people see podcast to be named. It could either be a clever name or it could be really a cry for help and saying we need a podcast name. So one of the first suggestions was Behind the Bag, and I love the what is that, a Vin Scully little tie-in from 86?
Little roller up along first, behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Yes, Mr. Ray Knight right there, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching, you can see it.
Ray Knight is there, and a figurine of Ray Knight, I think, is there. All the way around.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I think it's exciting. When I heard Behind the Bag, it definitely that was the first thing I thought about. Were the '86 Mets and Game 6. So. It's a natural, and we're off and running. I got to tell you, John, before we cover this week's episode, I think we put some names out into the universe. I mean, if you think about it, last week we talked about April 23rd, 2005. We mentioned names such as Dae-Sung Koo, who, by the way, thanks to our friends at Twitter, Mr. Matt Brownstein and Mets Rewind, we learned that today, January 8th, is the anniversary of Dae-Sung Koo's signing. So 15 years. Crazy.
Yeah, and we're gonna come up with a fun fact, a little jingle or tune that will have already been post production wise blasted in there as the ding ding for this is what we saw.
And that's the other thing. When this episode was done, the next day, or it may even been that day, I don't even remember. It was on this day, Jae Ung-so was traded for Duaner Sanchez. So again, 2 additional names that we talked about in the last episode. So who should we talk about this week, right?
We're saving that Eric Valent episode for when we have our Patreon, right? Okay. That's only for our paid audience. I think Duaner Sanchez can definitely be comprehensive enough to be an entire podcast. But yeah, each day is a new day in Mets history, I think.
Absolutely. So we're gonna stick with the month of April for this episode, and we're gonna rewind, but not really rewind. I mean, it's not like super rewind. We're not going back to 2005. We're going to go to April 6th, 2019, which feels like yesterday, for another Mets Nationals game, which incidentally was also WWE Day at CitiField. And so, of course, I think we should talk about wrestling first, because, hey, we've always wanted to do a wrestling podcast, right? And the world needs another wrestling podcast.
That's right. We're actually going to find the niche upon niche of wrestling and Mets fan together. And
I like it.
We're targeting you. We're coming for you.
I don't know if we can say that anymore.
Oh, that's right. We're not coming for you. We are sitting back and waiting for you to nicely come to us.
But I think let's go back to the genesis of how we got to this particular episode. I have to tell folks, so yes, I am a wrestling mark. John is a wrestling mark, and who we mentioned last week is a wrestling mark, and kind of brings us together. But I will say, I have not watched wrestling in the year of pandemic. The last thing I really have seen is WrestleMania, but it was Legends Night this past Monday. So we got to live our childhood. Well, in this case, like our 20s, because I feel kind of old that some of these folks that were out there on TV were considered legends. And that really sparked the idea of sending Johnny Ice a text saying, hey, what if we talk about WWE Day?
Yeah. And it was, WrestleMania has been here twice, MetLife Stadium. We probably talk a good game about possibly going for 6 months leading up to it. Yeah. And then you start thinking about it, and it's about 11 hours of nonstop wrestling and
outdoors
sitting in the cold. Sitting in the cold. So it ends up being a hard pass. And we'll do it from home, and we'll share our great group text, and it'll be just like we're there.
Absolutely. Yet we will sit at CitiField in the freezing cold, or Shea Stadium. That's different, of course.
Very different. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's only 3 hours or so, not 11. So we have rules.
Before we get to the game and the season, I think, we could take it either way. We could talk about the season, or we could actually talk about the beginning with WWE Day. Where do you want to take us, John?
We'll talk about WWE Day.
All right. So for those of you that haven't, or aren't wrestling marks, I mean, WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of the WWE. I mean, it is an international event where folks come out from everywhere in the world for this extravaganza, which once upon a time was just one day. It is now like a multi-day event, fan fest, multiple wrestling events, right? I mean, and to do it in New York City, is just times a million in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, logistics alone to do it in New York City is pretty incredible. I mean, right now they have Fan Fest during the week, Hall of Fame, NXT, all these things you're talking about from Thursday all the way through Sunday. And then, of course, the most infamous of them all is the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, where all of those people who are from mostly Europe, your international audience, are still hanging around for that last hurrah. Yeah. And they just are the most rambunctious crowd.
I still have Fandango's theme song stuck in my head from that, Monday after Raw, Monday after WrestleMania several years ago. That was, we could do a whole podcast on that.
Yep.
But what I will, also talk about. So, great marketing. We'll give props to the Wilpons. I mean, we're not going to give much props to the Wilpons, but the marketing folks for this particular event, they nailed it. Buy your tickets, meet superstars before the game, the whole package. I don't know what we spent. Maybe it was $120, $130, which, a little pricey, but a meet and greet, opportunity to take some photos, game tickets. But the bastards, they don't tell you who the wrestlers are going to be, but you have to buy the package. And so it's, do you not buy the package? Do you buy the package? We bought the package, and I remember us we're going down the list of the C list. Yeah. Not quite the D list, the C list of superstars that we'll probably get. And we were pretty close.
Yeah. And it's funny, like we discussed last week about our Saturday and Sunday games. It's pretty much that Chris Woodward, Joe McEwing, Miguel Cairo lineup. And if you think about that as a Met fan, and then you equate it to what it is in wrestling, it's not quite currently in the ring stature, but you're always somewhere in between there.
So for this game, we had Curtis Hawkins. Is that his name? Kurt Hawkins, not Kurt Hawkins. Yeah. Kurt Hawkins, who is a New York Met fan, a Long Island boy. So, but not exactly the most knock your socks off WWE superstar. Mickie James, who, is a future Hall of Famer. However, I think in 2019, not exactly one of the top stars on the roster compared to, a Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. And then this scrub, this nobody that, has talent, but just misused, and a throw in by the name of Drew McIntyre. John,
Yeah,
do you want to tell folks about who Drew McIntyre is today? For those that don't know?
Drew McIntyre is a very interesting story because he started off in his young days in WWE pretty much as the Anointed One, which usually is just the writing on the wall from the beginning. Unfortunately,
it's like the Paul Wilson. It's like being the Paul Wilson of the WWE.
It's the Generation
phenom.
K.
Right? Yes. Once you get anointed, that's it. It's over.
So, in wrestling, you pretty much have to pay your dues, or really the most successful wrestlers are those who organically get the audience to kind of back them. And the audience is pretty smart. Their ears are to the ground, and they know if someone's being forced down their throat, and they will do whatever they can to influence the product. Right? All wrestling fans want to influence the product. They want to say that their booing and their cheering did something.
Yeah.
So Drew McIntyre was around early and had early success, and just did not catch on. He probably took it for granted, as I've seen some interviews. And then eventually was placed in that dreaded 3-man band gimmick, which just imagine 3 guys in leather pants wrestling, doing the air guitar before each match. That was a thing. So that was his final straw. And he actually worked his way back through the independents and made it a crazy name for himself, and then came back to WWE and went to NXT and became champion. And this was he was on their main roster, and it was like, this was the cusp. This was probably the fork in the road for Drew McIntyre, this event. And I mean, basically from here on out, he's currently the world champ, I believe.
Right.
Yes, he is. He's the world champ. Who was challenged by Goldberg on Legends Night.
We won't get into that. We won't get into that. So, in reality, going to this game, we got a bargain because we got a future WWE champ, as part of the deal. And, so that was pretty cool. It's almost like, I don't know, I was going to think of a baseball analogy, but I can't. It'll come to me, though. But anyway, that event was really cool. Before the game, we always get down there early. Again, for most of you that, we talked about there in the last episode, I live about 2 hours, 2.5 hours away from CitiField. So to go to a game, it's really we try to make it an adventure to make it worthwhile. So we'll get there early, maybe, have a couple of drinks, or just try to take it all in. And so being part of that,
I think you want, when you go to CitiField, which I don't think it's debatable, the best baseball field in New York, you try to get at least 2 full meals in, I would say. Bring the extra $150 and get at least 2 full meals in, because there's great food all over the place in CitiField.
I think a future episode should be all about the food. Maybe if they let us actually have fans,
we'll do it live.
Well, I'm okay with that. That would actually be a lot of fun, Johnny Ice. You know,
one piece of food from each,
and we'll expense it. Kiosk. Who knows? So the other highlight from that little experience too, I guess a couple of highlights, but one is Mr. Matt dressed up as Macho Man. So it's the little things in life, ladies and gentlemen. With the little, either that or Bailey. We weren't quite sure what he was, but I'm going to go that he was looking like Macho Man.
It's Macho Man dressed as Bailey, dressed as.
Okay.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Fair enough. Got our picture taken with the WWE belts. I still have that photo, and that was pretty cool. And there was Mickie James saying that she liked my glasses, ladies and gentlemen. It was, it was a humana.
You have to balance out what the best part is. I really like taking a picture in front of the Mets step and repeat, but that's because none of the superstars had anything to say to me. So we all can cherry pick our moments, and I totally understand Ray on that one.
Fair enough. I also will also add that it was pretty hysterical that you had a little conversation with Drew. You wanted him to sign one part for folks that are watching. I have the Todd. It was actually Todd Frazier bobblehead day with him holding a WWE championship belt. So here it is, so you can see. And if you'll see, we had the wrestlers sign the box. Unfortunately, they used black Sharpies on a deep blue box. So you could just imagine how it really doesn't show. But
If you get the right light, you could almost make it out.
So John had this whole exchange with Drew where he tried to get him to like sign the white part, and Drew just nodded. And I think, what was your reaction, John? You were like, I'm not going to tell him no.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all pretty much the same size when we're standing over a table and Drew McIntyre's sitting down. But when he stands up, it's kind of like.
And then he tried to give you a second.
Picker.
He tried to give you a second thing. He was like, "It's no skin off my nose." That was those were his words, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think he was trying to give me an autograph, like one of their little
like a placemat.
Yeah, like their placemats. Yeah.
Oh man, that was awesome. I think it was at that moment that I knew that this guy is really meant to be a face. There's no reason that he should be the heel. I mean. And
the other thing is when he, fast forward and he comes out for whatever first pitch or whatever they did, seeing him in a Mets jersey, you're like, good God, I wish this guy could play left field. My goodness.
He'd give Dave Kingman a run for his money there. And, I think the tallest Met that I remember is Mark Johnson from like the 2000 Mets, 2001, the pinch hitter. He was like 6'6", 6'7".
Wasn't Graham Lloyd like really tall?
Graham, yeah, you're right. Graham Lloyd,
tall dude.
And Drew McIntyre really made them look like elves because not only is he tall, he's just jacked.
Yes. He's a big dude, and I mean, he just looks. Some people just look great in a baseball jersey, and it's like, Drew, if it doesn't work out the second time around in the WWE, we could find somewhere to put you.
Yeah, and I will also remember the next day, seeing the event pictures and the smile on Dominic Smith's face. Like, I think deep down inside, he's a tremendous, first of all, a tremendous guy, but I think he's a WWE mark as well. There is a photo of him. Maybe we'll have to tweet it out if I can find it, of him and Drew, and he's like a little kid in the candy store. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and once we get into the audio visual portion or whatever, I have the belt upstairs. I have the real Mets belt. So all right, talk about really devoted fan or loser of losers. Either or, I have the belt. So we're gonna tweet that out one day.
I like it, Johnny Ice. And so that takes us, that's the WWE day in a nutshell. It was pretty awesome. And I also think, I didn't realize it on that day, but later that season, I went to a game and they come out to Brock Lesnar's music. I thought that was a one-time deal. Did you pick up on that?
I didn't know. I thought it was a one-time deal also. I didn't realize that.
At least the one or two other games that I was at that year, right before they take the field, that you hear the don't. And I'm looking for Brock, so there you have it. That's
a beautiful thing. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize.
The worlds collide, baby. The worlds collide. And so that takes us to the actual game, which, and wait, there's more, right? I would have been happy leaving at that point. Let me just tell you that, that was a blast. But starting pitcher that day was my friend Steven Matz. For those that are wondering, I loathe Steven Matz. Steven Matz is my Taesung, not Taesung, Kaz Ishii, Steve Traxel, the trifecta that John announced yesterday.
He's your Satoru Komiyama, I think.
Yes.
The Japanese Mike Maddox.
Oh, kills me. But actually, before we get there, let's, this is actually a pretty big, we're still early season, but a lot happened going into that season. Do you want to kind of take us through just to kind of level set, even though it's April 6th, early season, but there were quite a few moves that the Mets made.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised going back in, this is only 2019, but the change in roster between 2018 and 2019 and you had some legends going in and out. Speaking of legends, so Sandy Alderson, who's just returned to the Mets, this was his final year as GM. Because unfortunately he had the cancer diagnosis, the cancer returned. So I was reading, and he was succeeded on an interim basis by John Rico, Omar Minaya, and JP, Ray's favorite person in the world.
Don't even get me started with JP.
JP Ricciardi? I don't know. I have to make sure I'm saying his name right. When he listens to this, I don't want to offend him. But So it was a crazy year in 2018. The Mets ended up fourth in the NL East with a 77-85 record. This was Mickey Callaway's first season, which you want to talk about a guy who's almost Drew McIntyre. All Ray and I would talk about was the size of Mickey Callaway and how how hopeful we were in the beginning of the 2018 season. They started off, I didn't remember this, 11-1 in 2018, but ended up in fourth place with a 77-85 record. And they were officially out of the hunt. As Mets fans, we hang on to that. You're still in it. You're not out of the race yet. They were officially out of the hunt on September 17th when they were 12 and a half games out of the second wildcard slot. So that was 2018. There were only a couple of bright spots for the season. Jacob deGrom, Cy Young, 10-9, the poor thing, a 1.7 ERA and 10-9. I mean, on probably literally any other team, he'd be 18-2. But that's Jake. And then our August highlight, Jeff McNeil was a call up, which I didn't realize, and took the world by storm.
Yep.
So that's our 2018 season recap. We can go over. We can move on to see who we didn't have in 2018.
The bottom line, one of the things is, it's not the bottom line, but it's the first time to get to see Robinson Cano in a Mets jersey in person. The infamous trade leading into it, which, you can't even, I don't have the words. But look at some of the other folks that we signed. Rajai Davis, Keon Broxton, who is going to have a big part in this particular game, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, and important to note real quick about the signing. This is Brody's first year, right? So this is
Mr. Come and Get Us.
This is his mark on Mets history. He started off with a bang, signing left-hander Ryan O'Rourke to a minor league deal.
You start small, baby. You start small. But the Robinson Cano deal, we bring back Familia, who will also play a role in this game that we were at. This is actually a pretty wild game, right, when you really think about it.
Yeah. It's incredible. It was actually an incredible game, and when you see the highlights, you just relive where you were in the moment as these things were going down.
Very entertaining game. We get to the game. Steven Matz is pitching. We got 35,000 people in attendance. So a pretty good crowd, actually a really good crowd for early April. 59 degrees, which don't let that fool you, folks. Don't let that fool you. If you see the pictures of John and I, we are layered up because CitiField, much like Shea Stadium, it depends on where you are. If you're on the first base side in April for a day game, you probably do want some lighter layers because you're in the sun. But when you are in the shade on the third base side, it is cold. All right. And sure enough, we were on the third base side. But anyway, it was a gorgeous day nonetheless.
It was a beautiful day. And it's definitely in that stadium between the sunny side and the shady side. You're looking at a big difference in temperature. And, one, you need a SPF and the other one a scarf.
And we'll talk about this SPF and scarf in future episodes because that has happened, as have ski pants, ladies and gentlemen. And I am not exaggerating. So we get to this game. Steven Matz, I'm just looking at the box score here. Steven Matz goes 5 innings. Of course he does, because that's what he does. Gives up no runs. So you know what? I actually can't talk too much smack, which probably is why I don't remember much of his performance there. It's funny. It's like a Steve Traxel. You constantly think that every game you've been to was 4 hours, and the one game that he pitches crisp under 2 hours, you don't believe it. So Steven Matz, 5 innings, no runs in this particular start. Walks 4. So listen, let's not totally, let him off the slide here.
That's a pitch count warning. Pitch count warning. What I saw looking at the highlights, and there was just strikeout. I was like, I have to take a look at this. So Patrick Corbin, the national starter, who you haven't gotten to yet. Don't want to bury the lead here, but 9 strikeouts in 6 innings for Patrick Corbin, and 8 strikeouts in 5 innings for Steven Matz.
Yep.
So
we're like,
strikeout fest in the beginning.
We really picked the right game to go to. This is going to be a 1-0 snoozer.
Hey, we're NL guys all the way. We're scoring pitching duels.
It's interesting because this game actually does turn out, and again, I know we're bouncing around. This game actually turns out into like a back and forth home run fest, which is ironic when you think about the fact that the number of strikeouts in the early innings.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking back, I always like to see where, it's an early April game just to see where our team was with batting average and what they got. I mean, it was pretty rough going into the game. It was pretty rough. Robinson Cano goes 2 for 4 this game to move his average up to 222. So he is the full friendly's breakfast, as we'll say.
The friendly's breakfast.
He's the friendly breakfast.
Still better than Carlos Viagra, though. Come on now.
That's right.
Oh man, I'm looking through. So who breaks the score here? So the Mets, I'm just, Baseball Reference, folks. If you haven't checked it out, go out of your way. It's a great resource. Let's see, the Mets score a run in the 4th, so they break the tie. Again, I don't remember a lot. I only really remember the latter innings. What was really interesting in this is Pete Alonso hits a home run.
And Alonso hits one to center field, hit pretty well. Robles back on the track at the wall. It's out of here! Pete Alonso with his first CitiField home run to dead central.
That was his first home run at CitiField.
That's right.
And what was exciting about that one is it's really probably the first time that I've seen him do his, wave his hands in the air. And, it just, there was so much excitement. You could tell that, I don't know that we could have told or foresaw that he'd break a record and the number of home runs he had that year. But you just knew that the polar bear was going to be in for a good time this season.
I think the polar bear knew the WWE superstars were in attendance.
Fair point.
He was definitely amping up the audience. But I think it's good to talk about what happened before the polar bear home run, because there's a reason why it was a pretty game changing and exciting home run, because our good friend and yours, Jerry's Familia, came in the top of the 8th.
And before we go there, let me just say, I was really excited to hear Dante Cordero again. It got me. I was like, this is it. He's back. Unfortunately, it was not the 2015 Yuris Familia that we got back.
No, and, he came back. He's back as a setup guy for this stud we got from Seattle. New closer, new year. So in comes Jerry's Familia to
hey, John, John,
clamp down.
Wait,
3-2 lead.
Before you get too excited, you broke up. Either that or I have crappy Wi-Fi. So let's.
So coming into the top of the 8th inning, Mets are up 3-2. We play. You hear on the sound system Ray's second favorite Mets theme, and in comes Jerry's Familia, the returning Jerry's Familia. Our setup man of the future, our previous closer, and he proceeds to give up a home run to Anthony Rendon, and off to the races we are.
I remember that was a bomb, but the real bomb was from Wilmer Defoe. I mean, he's like 5'2". This guy. That
was like right field upper tank, right?
Yes. And everyone in our section, it was just like a collective groan. Like when you listen, the cool thing is about being at a baseball game, but definitely being at CitiField, is the crowd is so into it regardless. And, when the energy is sapped out of the stadium, as they say, you really can feel the energy sapped out of the stadium. And that shot by Defoe was it.
Yeah, and the frustration, at least in CitiField and amongst Mets fans, it definitely builds up. So I don't know when you're talking about frustration, if that's building up or that's, deteriorating, but it's definitely, we're off to a bad start here, and then here we go, single, fly out, a ground out.
So there's the tease. We're going to get out of it, baby. We're going to get out of it.
That's it.
That is always the tease. That is always how it happens.
That's what we like to do. We like to come back. This is what we like to do. So I remember this bottom of the 8th vividly, and it's not because of Justin Miller. It's because of poor Tony Sipp. I don't know. I think coming out of the game, his ERA was like 22.8 or something like that. But I don't know what happened to Tony Sipp. Tony Sipp might be a guest next week on the podcast.
That would be
I just
great,
felt
actually.
so bad. I felt so bad for Tony Sipp.
Yeah. Well, you know what was cool about that inning before we get to Tony, though, is, and I actually didn't realize it was a back-to-back. Pete Alonso and Robinson Cano go back-to-back in this inning. The Robinson Cano shot, that was a shot. Actually, let me see if I could pick it up while we try to stall here and see if we could listen to it, because the call is pretty good. Obviously, we weren't there, but to listen to the call, but. That was one of the few home runs that I've seen in person that you just know it's gone.
Well, the thing I remember from that at bat is usually how we, amp up for the 2-strike call, right? Clap and everything like that, get amped up and it happens, more often than that, not they get the strikeout. But this is the first time I was standing and cheering before a home run happened, and it actually happened. And I am totally not used to that. I'm used to like a pop fly, foul out to third base. This was we're standing, we're cheering, looking for a timely home run, and it happens.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, maybe this Cano thing might work out after all.
Let's see. We're going to play the clip here, and let's do a little mini watch along. We're going to call an audible on the fly.
3-2 to Robinson Cano. And Robbie swings, flies it deep right center. Forget that. The game is tied. Robinson Cano to the bridge. It's 5-5. Alonso and Cano go back to
Gary Cohen with the forget that. Like, wow, that immediate forget that.
It hits the bridge.
I mean, that was a bomb. That was a bomb.
Again, it's a no doubter, and there's nothing like a no doubter when you're in that situation.
Definitely. Crowd goes wild. Now, before we get to the real, not the real, but like the let's call it the tiebreaker where we go off. But correct me again. I do remember a line bullet once again finding us in that area. And I will say this. I will admit it. My head was down. I wasn't even paying attention. I was the jerk on my phone. And yeah, it happened again, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think it was just like a few rows in front of us or something like that. But this
guy in front of us saved us, actually, because it was like one of those liners that,
Well, we were amongst wrestling fans. That's the other thing to note.
That is true.
So they spare nothing.
ECW.
Yeah, they will tackle anybody to get free baseball. Bless their hearts. So we didn't have to worry about that one. But we were in we were like the left field kind of foul territory area.
Yeah, great seats, actually, closer to that closer to that warning track, but on the left field side, third base side. So yes. We fast forward here. I'm looking at the actual play. I do remember the hit. So let's, after we go 5-5, let's see here with back-to-back homers, JD Davis gets a single. Our boy Wilson Ramos with a nice double play, because that's just how life goes with the Buffalo.
The speedster.
You kind of like, at that point, after your double play, back-to-back home runs, double play, you're like, all right, 2 outs, this is it, go sit down. Now we could watch our closer blow the game or something like that, but Conforto comes up, gets a double. Jeff McNeil gets hit by a pitch, which he's adept at. And that brings up Brody's top trade acquisition, not Robinson Cano, but Keon Broxton, who, frankly, I honestly forgot he was on the team. I'm not going to lie. It was so short-lived. On this game, though, he gets a single to center field, and I actually remember like the excitement around it because it was a new acquisition getting the big hit, and you just felt like, okay, this was a big game, big win, or a big lead, and Keon Broxton, this guy might actually be something for us.
Yeah, it's that hope. And it's this early April game, and aside from the Familia, implosion, you got Cano hitting the home run. You have a home run from Alonso, JD Davis with a home run, Keon Broxton coming through, and that's what you get excited about.
And I'm actually just looking at the clip here. It was actually a 2-2 pitch on top of that. So, you talk about drama, you just feel like, okay, look, foul ball here. It's 2-2. Something's going to happen. Either that or he's going to swing at a curveball in the dirt, because that's just how it works with the Mets.
As long as he doesn't look at a curveball right down the middle, I'm okay. I'm okay with
yes. Not that we're bitter about that at all.
We don't live in the past.
No, we're Met fans. But just make sure we don't tell Steve Cohen that. Otherwise, he'll put us on. He'll call us out on that.
We'll be on blast in no time. But hey, maybe that's all the publicity we need, folks.
We're gonna get behind the bag off and running, but and then we get to the ninth inning, and believe it or not, Edwin Diaz goes 1-2-3. That may have been the only 1-2-3 inning that I remember Edwin being part of.
Yeah, I mean, usually at the very least, you're sweating it out with Edwin Diaz, and this was 1-2-3.
This was a 1-2-3 inning, and actually, and that's Met fans, baseball fans in general, I think would say this, that after your team wins, especially early April, as you were just saying, you always feel good, right? It's like, wow, Keon Broxton with the big hit, wow, that kid Alonso with the homer, Robinson Cano, wow, with the homer, and the 1-2-3 in the ninth. Like, if we could just fix Familia. That's a little worrying that he's a little shaky early on, but I think we're going to be all right. And that was probably the only time that we could say we're going to be all right.
We were going to be all right. Exactly. But this is why we go early in the season for the most part. And then plan true. A later chirp much, much later when things start heating
the September
up. If
call-up
they do.
Game.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing we missed, there was a passed ball on that highlight. Right. I don't know if you saw that. Familia and the Buffalo neither could find the ball, and we gave up a run. So there is always that Mets highlight. It's just a Mets thing.
In case we did say it during this game, we'll put a bow on this one. But the Mets hit 5 home runs in that game, which is at CitiField, third time that they've ever done that. That record has since been shattered. Later in the year, there are a couple of games. Well, actually, one game where they hit 6 homers against the Diamondbacks when they were making their run. But always fun to go to a game where there's a lot of home runs, a lot of drama. And when the team wins, that just makes it that much better. Anything else you want to say on that beautiful day of April 6th, 2019?
No, it was just incredible to hear the crowd. I just remember how excited the crowd was. And it was just, going out there, and there's nothing like Mets fans when things are going right. And luckily, we didn't get too far down in the dumps. When Familia gave it up, nobody went out to beat the traffic. We didn't have to worry about that. And, so it was a good thing. The one thing, my one beef, as always, Johnny's one beef of the week is Familia gets the win after blowing the save or blowing the hold, I guess it's called, and giving up 3 runs. He is your winner.
It's better than having Steven Matz get a W, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
so for the record, if you want heel heat,
fired over here. Wow.
If you want heel heat, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. The other thing, before we actually formally put the bow on this game, is 30, like I said, 35,000 plus at that game. My sister Brianna was there, and we bumped into her at the end with her man Jake. Hey Jake, I know you're listening.
Oh, shout out to Jake.
Absolutely. We like Jake. That was pretty cool. She even invited us to the bar afterwards. And I was like, that's kind of weird going to the bar with my sister. So we're going to pass here. And
yeah, I think Ray was like, we have a podcast to record in 2 years, 1 month.
I want to remember this day.
Yeah,
I can't go to the brewery.
I don't want to be hungover for it. So.
Well, that puts a bow on this game. And before we leave, though, this has been a pretty big week. We just talked about Robinson Cano. Really, the last time the Mets traded for an infielder and a reliever. For those listening, I thought Carrasco was a reliever. I'm not going to lie. I will admit it. But
that was a different Carrasco.
Got me. Damn it. I'm a National League guy, all right? I don't follow the American League. But I do know about Francisco Lindor. So before we talk about the deal, I just want to set the record straight. This year, with the start of quarantine, I went off and got MLB 19 for PlayStation 4. Not MLB 20 because I'm a cheap guy. The MLB 19 was on sale at the start of the quarantine. Played as the Mets, of course. I want the world to know that I acquired Francisco Lindor first for Ahmed Rosario and a couple of prospects. So,
wow.
Jared Porter, if you're listening and you need an assistant GM,
breaking news.
I'm excited about the deal. I think, it's exciting. It's a big move, but it's the right move in the sense that you're getting someone that's in their prime, not like a Robinson Cano that's got a huge contract way past their prime. And I think it signals, with Stevie, Uncle Stevie at the helm and Sandy and Jared, I think, it's a great move. It shows that they're willing to make moves, not worried so much about the price tag. And they didn't give up, I love Jimenez. Let the record show. I that kills me. But, the two prospects, it's not like we're giving up Kalenic and Ahmed Rosario, he's going to probably be the next Jose Vizcaíno, a serviceable shortstop. I don't think he's ever going to really live up to his hype. So what say you, Uncle Johnny?
Well, a couple things. First, Rosario, I liked him, but also, he's kind of got that A-Rod build, and I expected a five-tool, for lack of a better term, shortstop, and it just kind of didn't develop. So hopefully he does develop into something, but he was given plenty of opportunity after Jose Reyes moved on. The one thing I do not want to hear about is the other infielders wearing number 12 for the Mets that they acquired in a big deal. I don't want to hear about Robbie Alomar. There were swirling winds in Shea Stadium that really messed up his batting average. No, but seriously, I'm excited about not doing it at the deadline and getting a full season out before his contract is up. And obviously, you're pretty much you're going to have to re-sign him long term, but the kid's 27. So I think it's a great deal, and you had to do something to get the excitement up, and it went from 0 to 100 very quickly in Mets world. So I think it's great.
And Carrasco is going to be great for the, as a solid middle of the rotation, pitcher. Could even be in 2, to be honest with you. So I think that's going to be a great, especially with Syndergaard out at least till mid-year. And frankly, whenever he does come back, let's not fully expect, Syndergaard of old. I mean, I think that's going to take some time for him to hit his groove, if you will. And, God, if we're relying on Mats, my goal is to see Matt's gone by midseason, but that's,
well, the challenge there is that means that we're probably out of it. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to want that.
Fair.
Unless all of a sudden we have this wealth of pitchers all of a sudden dawn upon us.
Maybe Jeremy Hefner will come back and pitch for us a little bit.
Goodness gracious.
All right. Well, and I guess the last question that I have, which was interesting, I saw this exchange. I think it was Keith had said this on SNY about this being, having that same move, that same feeling of when the Mets got Carter, and also seeing another, on Mets Twitter, which is always fun to follow, ranking this really in the top 5 with Piazza, Carter, Hernandez, and I forget what the 4th deal was. I mean, this is a big deal. I guess time will tell if this is a top 5, because I thought the Robbie Alomar deal was going to be a big deal. Thought the Mo Vaughn deal was going to be a big deal.
Fun fact, Mo Vaughn, I think, was the last person to hit a ball into that section that Cano hit, except it was in Shea Stadium. So
okay,
I'm glad we got Mo Vaughn in there.
That was 505.
505 from the Pepsi coming down from the scoreboard. Yeah.
Very good. All right, Johnny Ice, what do you say? Should we just put a bow on this one and wait till episode number 3?
Yeah. Everybody come back around for episode 3. If you don't like wrestling, don't worry. We won't talk about it too much in episode 3. If you do, leave us a comment, and we'll start a whole new podcast. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely. He's Johnny Ice at Johnny Ice on Twitter and Johnny Hilo on Instagram. I'm RH1782 on Twitter. Well, that's not my name. That's on Twitter. I'm Ray. Be sure to follow us. All right, let's end this one. All
Drive
right.
home safe, everybody.